Hello, I'm Robert Emmett Hernan. I'm head of Blue Stack Productions, the publisher of Irish Environment, an online magazine covering environmental matters in the island of Ireland. I'm very happy today to be here in Dublin with Dr. Hans Bruyninckx from the European Environment Agency. Thanks for talking with us.
Absolutely.
I know you
My
rushed
pleasure.
for a plane, so we're going to do this quick.
Yeah.
Climate change gets all the attention, but I want to ask you about something having to do with urbanization. By 2050, 70% of the people in the world are going to be living in cities. What's the benefits of that movement?
Well, I think cities are places where you have a high concentration of people. That also means a high concentration of services, a high concentration of brains, intelligence, innovation. So I think if we use the potential of cities well, they could be the engines of the economy and the society of the 21st century that is indeed capable of dealing with climate change, but also with a better way of dealing with natural resource use and the circular economy, all of these things that we are looking at. In fact, it would be not credible to think that any solution to these fundamental issues could come without a very strong contribution from cities.
Now, in the density itself, what's the advantage to the density in terms of some of the impacts on climate change?
In material use, for example, you can set up systems that connect utility systems and that connect with much less resources the people in the city. If you have a smart transport and mobility system, you don't need to ship people in and out and over long distances. You can facilitate that. So there are all sorts of reasons why dense population can be an advantage when you want to come with solutions.
And also even water distribution. Water is going to be a real problem.
Yeah.
And distributing that in the city is a lot different than doing it out in the countryside.
Yeah, not only that, I think also there is a lot of innovation when it comes to climate adaptation and sort of transforming cities. The idea is to transform a city into a sponge. When you have a lot of rain, how can you retain water and make sure that your city is not flooded through green roofs and all sorts of other means? And also in periods of drought, how can you work with water in the city or with urban heat effects? There is a lot of innovative thinking, but also practices when it comes to working with nature in urban environments to deal with these issues.
Yeah, and creativity is something that's a major resource in cities, which you don't get in the countryside.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, so what's the downside for the concentration and density of cities in the future?
Well, I think cities have many challenges. Many cities are struggling with their finances because often affluent people move outside of the city, but they want to come to the city to shop or do whatever. So we will have to think of cities as places where you want to attract younger people, where you want to attract the creative people, where you want to have a quality of life that makes sure that the resources are also in the city and not only the nice places where people that live outside of the city come to. There is also a challenge, of course, for some cities in terms of the access to resources. We know that many of the cities are, for example, on shorelines with climate change. An increase in sea level that could be problematic, or cities are developing very quickly in areas that are arid or semi-arid. So there's all sorts of challenges in the future. Yeah.
And slums are, of course, a major issue.
Yes, well, but I would say more in general, if we really want a long-term sustainability agenda, we will have to deal with inequality.
Yes.
I mean, it's inconceivable that high levels of inequality will lead to a fundamentally long-term sustainable solution to problems.
And of course, most cities are attracted to water because it was always, so flooding will become a major problem, correct?
Yeah, yes. And we see that already. The number of floods and the impact of floods is increasing in Europe. But also at the same time, and from a more positive perspective, we see that more and more cities are indeed coming with climate adaptation and flood measures, and so there is a response there as well. Yeah.
And transport, of course, public transport is better, more efficient, but it also, the transport of trucks is a major air pollution problem.
Yeah, but also there, I think we see a number of cities that are highly innovative when it comes to the logistics, the logistical chains within the city boundaries. You can keep big trucks out of your city. That is possible, or you can replace them by highly efficient electric vehicles by organizing, grouping businesses in their appliance chains or supply chains. So there is a lot of innovation there.
And I suppose electric vehicles in a city are more manageable because you're not traveling big distances.
Yeah,
So electric
absolutely.
trucks would be a huge.
Plus also the sharing of these vehicles.
Yeah.
You don't need to own
Right.
a car in a city. You want access to mobility. If I think of the city where I live now, Copenhagen, car ownership in Copenhagen is below 25%. So that's low compared to most other places. Why? Because you've got a lot of alternatives, and if you want a car, you have access to one because they have very advanced car sharing systems with electric vehicles.
Thanks for talking with us today.
Absolutely, you're
Good luck
quite
to you.
welcome.